It's not what you say, it's how you say it. This phrase is perhaps most accurately applied to filmmakers as we continue to tell and retell stories with the same basic core structure. Some do this so subtly that we might not recognize that original story, but still connect to it on a deeper level in some way. Others leave subtlety behind in favor of style and spectacle. But regardless of the stories that we tell, it's how we choose to present them that distinguishes filmmakers from one another. This brings me along to Rian Johnson, one of, if not the most divisive filmmakers in recent memory. His latest film, Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, seems to exemplify more than any of his other films exactly why his audiences either love or hate him. But how is he doing this? And what is it about his films and his style of filmmaking that's causing so much discord? I'm Eric the Cameraman, and today we're going to be examining Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, and the filmmaking style of Rian Johnson. Now, before we get into the technical aspects of Rian's films, let's examine his motivations. Rian Johnson wants to be divisive. He wants his viewers to come away with different opinions, debating and arguing about his films.
It's much more exciting to me when you get a group of people who are like coming up to you and really, really excited about it. And then there are other people who walk out literally saying it was the worst movie I've ever seen. Having those two extremes to me is the mark of the type of movie that I want to make.
So with division amongst viewers being his end goal, Johnson sets about this by making story and character decisions that he knows will spark controversy, whether that is through setting up massive finales and then not delivering, or changing the nature of well-established characters. He wants not only to subvert expectations, but outright push the buttons of his viewers. In Glass Onion, he does this in a multitude of ways, absolutely pummeling his audience with what he most likely believes are controversies. Whether that's his change in character for Detective Blanc, who in the previous film was a dominant presence, now resigned to the bathtub-soaking husband of Hugh Grant, motivated to take the case out of boredom and ultimately have Andy do the bulk of the detective work, or Johnson's cartoonish depiction of certain demographics as gun-toting, pill-selling literal basement dwellers. Everything down to his mid-pandemic setting, using masks, or lack thereof, to establish his characters.
This is something I think all of us experience, the notion of defining people's personalities based on their choice of mask wear.
To his constant celebrity references and some less than subtle jabs at Elon Musk, are meant to stir up some sort of controversy. However, in the craft of filmmaking, all of this is really superfluous, as none of it has to do with his style as a filmmaker. So putting it aside, let's examine Glass Onion and the style of Rian Johnson on a technical level. Rian Johnson subscribes to the modern style of filmmaking, which includes techniques like relying on ultra-wide-angle lenses and zoom lenses, staging actors centered in the foreground so that actions in the midground are very prominent, using less dramatic and more even lighting to showcase the sets and costumes, and utilizing camera movement in a very quick and fast-paced way. The style of filmmaking is also used by Wes Anderson, though in a much different way. Where Anderson uses this style to complement the comedic, light-hearted, feel-good nature of his films, Johnson uses it as a direct contrast to his darker, heavier, and often preachier subject matter, pushing on to the film a style that doesn't naturally fit its genre. This in itself is a divisive move, as you more than likely either love seeing a new look on a familiar genre or hate the unnatural style. So let's dive into that style a bit more. As director, Rian Johnson's primary concern is with his staging and blocking, and he typically keeps the person speaking closest to the camera so that something can happen behind them. He fills the frame with as much as he possibly can, which then makes his choice of lens often to be ultra-wide, only using slightly longer focal lengths for zoom shots, or for over-the-shoulder conversational shots, which seem to be done not for any specific purpose, but simply because the longer focal length looks better in the scenario. This approach is not uncommon with Johnson, like in his character introduction scene.
Glints of the sun off the water was nice and early, matches nothing else in the scene lighting-wise, but it's gorgeous, so who cares?
This also seems to be done with his choice of level of the frame, which, with a few exceptions, he generally keeps the camera at the level of the object the characters are sitting at, which is then below eyeline, whether that's a chair or at a table. Now, if you got to check out my series on the classic monsters of Universal Pictures, you'll know that the height of the camera in relation to the actors and their eye line can play a crucial role in the storytelling. The height of the camera matters just as much as the exact angle in the frame. Whether that's above, below, or at the eye line of the character, the height of the camera helps establish who we as the audience are connecting to. And Rian Johnson seems to do this a bit haphazardly. Even with the lighting, though mostly from a simple naturalistic approach, Rian and cinematographer Steve Yedlin tend to light their scenes based off of what looks good rather than what makes sense in regards to the source, like in the blackout scene, for example.
The background and comes across the frame, and that's not necessarily realistic. In fact, it's very not realistic in terms of how a lighthouse would work. It was usually a 20K incandescent, like a Fresnel style light, but with the Fresnel taken out so that it's sharper, because a realistic sweep of a light would have such blurry edges, it would almost feel like a fade on and fade off.
With the camera movement, Rian favors very fast, almost frantic moves, whether for pans, tilts, dollies, cranes. The camera moves at a lightning fast pace, also lending itself to fast-paced edits, meant to snap the audience's attention back to the scene in an almost hyperactive way. All of these elements add up to a filmmaking style that is a bit disjointed, to say the least, resulting in an end product that, without his contentious talking points, is a modern, fast-paced approach to heavier stories, which, whether that mixes well or not, is up to you. Well, thank you for watching, and if you'd like to support this channel, consider giving it a super thanks. Or simply by subscribing and giving your favorite videos a like. It all helps out the channel, and I am so grateful for it. And now I want to hear from you. What do you think of Glass Onion and the filmmaking style of Rian Johnson?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.